Hey everyone, it's Jeff, but it's not your fault. Surprise, I'm doing a video 2 days in a row. Wanted to cover a couple things that I was kind of contemplating in my mind. Just kind of want to go over some stuff with you guys. At the best time to get stuff out is when it immediately goes on my old brain and before it dissolves and disappears. So, wanted to cover a couple things with you this evening. Again, before we go into that, thank you so much for tuning in. Those who have, I do appreciate it so much. And it's not, this is not about me. This channel will never get monetized. It will never come to that point. But what I'm looking to do is hopefully get enough people to watch to where they may not go down the same roads and take the same pitfalls and quicksand drops that we did. So that's what it's for. So I added a subscribe button to the corner here. So if you could just click on subscribe, and then whenever there's a new video drops, you'll be notified. Of course, give me a little thumbs up and like and maybe a comment. So that said, what I wanted to talk about was uh, your the perception of your loved one. I was reading, going back to my old videos and listening to myself, and I was really coming down kind of hard on our loved ones. Um, and that may just be my bitterness. It may be my own uh, mixed feelings about my situations in the past. But what I want you guys to keep in mind is your your loved one's addiction does not define them. And I've said that many, many times in the past. Your loved one is still there. Your son, daughter, husband, wife, brother, sister, it's they're still there. They're being affected by disease. It is a disease. It is a deadly disease, but it's treatable. How they treat that is by finding and seeking help. Again, it's up to them. It's not up to anyone else. But they're not. They should never be considered anything less than what they are, and that's a loving, decent, kind human being that's unfortunately being affected by this awful, disgusting disease. You would not come down on anybody um, any differently, or if they were being affected by another a disease of I don't know anything else that could affect someone's behavior and decision making and their reactions to you and how they behave and the responsibility factors. All those things come into play when we're talking with addiction. But there's a stigma with addiction to where if it's dirty, it's disgusting, it's shameful. Um, those things are perceived in your own reality. Let me put it that way. Should you trumpet your loved one's addiction? Should you herald it and tell everyone ever you meet, hey, guess what? My son or daughter is a white. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is we tend to feel bad about our loved one's condition because it affects our life and it makes us look bad. And let's be honest with each other. A lot of times you'll keep it to yourself about the situation you're going through because somehow people will automatically somehow blame you. Well, if that was my son or daughter, I would have written. It's not your son or daughter, so why don't you shut up? Okay, you don't know what we're going through, so don't try and react. I would never tell somebody that's going through something that I have no idea about how to handle the situation. So, but don't hold that. Don't hold people. Don't hold it against people like that because they're just acting on what they think that you want to hear. A lot of times, human nature is people feel like we have to somehow fix every problem that somebody comes to us with. If that was me, I did. Well, I didn't ask you. Okay, I'm just. So a lot of times we don't talk about our loved one's situation because we don't want to hear it. We don't want to look bad on us. We don't want to somehow them think bad of them at the same time because again, they didn't choose this. Okay, we louder for those in the back. They didn't choose this. Okay, this was not their choice. This was a disease. There's something that fires in an addict's brain or an alcoholic's brain where you may be able to have a sip of wine or smoke a joint, and it doesn't affect you. With them, something triggers in them, and that part of their brain wakes up and says, "I want more. I want more. I want more." And that's And a lot of times it starts with a maturing teenage, undeveloped brain or body, and it becomes something to where they crave it all the time, and it becomes part of their constant desire. But it's not who they are. Okay, it's they're being affected by something else. A parasite affects a host. It doesn't stop being the host. It doesn't stop being what's something's affecting the host. Something's affecting your loved one. They don't stop being your loved one. So when people talk about addiction being having this stigma, it's a real stigma because again, and we've kind of done it to ourselves. We we talk about anonymous this and only last name initials only, and secret handshakes, and winks and nods, and all these different things, because there was a stigma about addiction to where it was supposed to be kind of kept under the rug and not talked about. And then two brilliant men uh, back in the 30s got together and started Alcoholics Anonymous, and that has branched out to this. There's this giant tree of recovery in this country, different recovery centers and outreaches programs with thousands of branches on it, and all those leaves on that tree are people like you and me looking to help other people. Okay, but the trunk of that tree is AA. That started the whole thing, and there isn't a single outreach program in this country that won't say that and admit that and say, give them their credit, they started it. Now again, it's gone from meeting in church-based basements and chain smoking of black coffee to different things now. There's amazing groups like Favor, Faces and Voices of Recovery, which is all over the country also as well. It's not a step-based program, but again, like I've said this a million times, for all you golfers out there, Bob, all those golfers out there, whatever club gets you to the green, okay, it doesn't matter if you're 75 yards out from the green, you pull out a 5 wood. If it gets you there, fine. If that's what you use and makes you most comfortable, if that's what you feel comfortable using to get to where you get, that's what you use. The goal is for us serenity, for them recovery. Okay, recovery, not recovered. It's a never-ending process. Your loved ones will always be alcoholics and addicts, always. Just accept that. It's up to them whether or not they're going to be in recovery or still using. Does that make sense? So, and again, this advice that I'm giving you, I gotta say it every time. I'm not a licensed therapist. I don't play on TV. I didn't stay at Holiday Express last night. I'm just a guy who's gone through the same garbage and tried it my way for so long. I eventually had to go ahead and say, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Now, I mean, you take advice from me. I don't know, maybe not. You take advice from a guy wearing a Beavis and Butthead shirt. I wasn't planning on doing a video, so give me some slack here, or maybe you should. I don't know. But what we're the whole my point of coming on tonight was because when I went back to watch my old videos, I was really coming down on our loved ones because the choices they've made, and they are their choices. But your perception of your loved one is your perception, and it can't be anything but they're still in there. They're still in there. They're your loved one is being affected by a horrible disease, but they're still your loved one. They're still a human being. They still are loving, caring. It's still the same person that you used to put Christmas presents under a tree for. It's the same person that you taught how to ride a bike. It's the same person you married. It's the same person that gave birth to you or taught you how to drive. I mean, this disease affects everyone, but it doesn't change who they are at their core. You can't change someone's essence. This disease affects their behavior. That is absolutely true. It does. But remember, they're still in there. So it's a cliche. You can hate the player, but don't hate, you can hate the game, but don't hate the player. Okay? They're still there. Love your loved one. Don't get into this slippery slope of looking at addiction as this shameful thing that should be talked about. It is no difference than rheumatoid arthritis, cancer, um, COPD, whatever disease a person may be affected by, that loved one is being affected by it. And with just like those diseases, they didn't choose it either. So why do we come down so hard on our loved ones? Because they fell into addiction. Did they make the choice when they first picked up the first drink? Hell, we all did. Maybe one person who's never touched alcohol in their entire life. Well, there may be a couple, or tried at least one drug in their life. There may be a couple, but it doesn't affect everybody. 99% of the people that touch alcohol or drugs, whatever they may be, doesn't affect them the way it affects your loved one. Okay, so I guess what I'm trying to say is you can hate the disease but love your loved one. Again, that does not mean you have to go ahead and tell everybody at the wedding, hey, guess what my son or daughter's doing? Well, A, no one probably really cares. And no one's, and if they do listen to you, they're probably gonna try and fix it. And as you know, and as we know, because we're all mad down here, you can't fix it. So what you may want to say is, uh, hey, how's Gomuzigam doing? Oh, they're doing okay. They're going through their struggles. What I used to always like to say was, they're trying to find their way. They're trying to find their way. It's a struggle, and that's it. That's it. But if you get into the, oh, let me tell you about this. I'll tell you what's going on. You're gonna go. People are going to say, oh yeah, yeah. Well, hold on, I gotta go. Okay. So, um, love is what keeps us coming back from more abuse. Love is what keeps us doing the stupid things we do. Because listen, you can never fall out of love with somebody, and especially a family member. That blood is there forever. You can never just sever it. You're always going to love somebody. You may not like them very much, but you're allowed to not like people you love. Okay, so you 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 what they do going forward with the addiction is up to them. But I'll give you a piece of advice, and again, take it with a grain of salt. Tell me to go to hell, whatever. But if they do make the decision to come to the altar of recovery, be the biggest cheerleader in the world. Put your arms around them. If they make the decision to say, I've had enough, I'm ready, champion them. I'm with you 100%. Now you got my attention. Now you got my support. Now, that said, and I'm going to do this, you know what this means? Talking out both sides of your mouth. That said, be cautious, be wary. Um, just don't get too overzealous and think that this is it, we're done. A part of addiction recovery is relapse, and unfortunately, I think it's last I read, it's less than 7% of the people that quit the first time will actually stay sober. Does that mean you should wait for the other shoe to fall? No. Live your life, have them live their life. But if you get that phone call after 6 months that they had a relapse, okay, how are you going to handle it? Well, how? What I'm saying is, if you get that phone call, you ask them, how are you going to handle this? What are you going to do? Well, in most cases, they go, I'm going to go ahead and dust myself off right now, have a cup of coffee, and go to a meeting. I'm going to call my sponsor. I'm going to do what I got to do. I'm going to work the steps. I'm going to work the things I know that got me to 6 months. The next 6 months is the most important thing. The next 6 minutes is the most important thing. And after that, the next 6 hours, and the next 6 days, and the next 6 months, that's what's most important. We have this preconceived notion that once they go ahead and say, take me, Lord, I'm ready for recovery, that it's all just going to be better. Some cases it is. Some cases it is. But if you go to enough meetings, you'll hear stories of people 10, 15, 20, 30 years recovered, and backslide and go back out again. You never know what that trigger is going to be. Everyone typically had a trigger that caused them to use the first time, drink the first time, whether it be a marriage crisis, relationship issues, getting fired from your job, an assault, whatever that reason was, they made a choice to use, and that caused the beast to be unleashed inside their body. And they started to want to be fed. That beast wanted to be fed all the time. So, if that happens, if there is a relapse, just see how they react. If they say they're going to get back on the beam, get back doing what they have to do, support them. If they say, you know what, it wasn't for me anyway, well, that's when you got to go back to protecting yourself. Draw it back in again. Say, okay, well, that's your decision. So, Mom, can you go ahead and take care of that bill for me, like you've been doing for the last couple months since I've been sober? No. The price of admission of you going back out again is you're back on your own again. Because we don't reward bad behavior, do we? Do we? And again, we're all guilty of it. We're again the one of the qualifications of tuning into this channel. You had to go through those steps. Was, are you insane? Click yes, and now here you are. Because we're all insane. Because we all do. Again, another one of those stupid cliches. But the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. We do it, expect them to somehow. This is the one time they're going to get better. Addiction is a disease. It should be viewed on as a disease. They didn't choose this. It's they caught it just like you catch any other disease. But don't define them by their disease. Little Cindy or little Bobby are still in there. Your husband and wife is still in there, but they're being affected by this horrible disease. And unfortunately, again, we get into this habit of saying to ourselves, "Well, they're just over in the corner, drunk all the time. They just disgust me." Well, you know what? I can guarantee you that if you could actually climb inside their subconscious and talk to their actual lucid, present, sober brain, it'd say, "I'm disgusted at myself also, but I can't get out of this. I'm trying, but I can't." They will eventually. Maybe you have to kick them in the ass, point them in the right direction, shove them out the door, but eventually they'll find their way to recovery. They will. Whether to stay in recovery or not, their choice, but it can't affect your life. It can't affect the way you go through life. So, there's a great movie you should watch. There's a movie called Anonymous People. It came out a couple years ago, and it talks about the stigma of addiction. Um, it's actually more socially acceptable in some instances to be anything but an addict or an alcoholic. And that's why so many famous people don't talk about it. Also because they're supposed to be anonymous with it. But I think if more and more people that were of means or of notoriety were to come forward and share the fact that they're going through what so many other people are going through. 23 million people are going through addiction right now, last count. If more and more people to see that it affects every human being, every family, it affects one out of every three families. It affects, or is it 2 out of 3? I forget. But basically, if you're sitting in a restaurant, you look to your left, look to the right. If they're not using, you probably are. So it's everywhere. Unfortunately, it's affecting this country like a roaring lion, destroying and eating the population. 65,000 people last year died of opioid overdose. This year it'll be closer to 85 to 100,000 that we know about. Think about that for a second. Think about if we knew of a disease that killed close to 100,000 people. Wouldn't you take notice of that? Wouldn't you want to see some government action about that? Wouldn't you want to see more centers opening up to treat these people? They don't belong in hospitals. They don't belong in prisons. They belong in rehabilitation centers, recovery centers to get treated the right way. How you treat an addict isn't by locking him up. How you treat an addict isn't by putting him in an ER bed just until they get sober enough to be kicked out the door again. We have this, other countries do it better than us, but there was this stigma about recovery that we just kind of kept under the rug. But it's getting better. It's getting better, and with people's help like you and me, we're a support group. You and I talking right now, we're a support group. Okay, be someone else's support group. Be that beacon of hope. Be that lighthouse on the shoreline that will prevent people from steering their ship onto the rocks and the shoals and the sandbars and be wrecked by what we do. And that's trying to fix our loved one's addiction. So again, your loved one is still there. They're still the wonderful human being that you know them to be. Yeah, you can get mad at them for their disease, you get mad at the choices they make, but hate the game, not the player. Okay. And if they don't ever seek recovery, take care of yourself. If they seek recovery, embrace them, put them on your shoulders, and rah them to cross the finish line. Go to meetings with them. Again, you're their support also. Okay, so you've been living for them for so long now. So why not celebrate in their recovery and share it with them? The first few months are the most difficult. The first few weeks are the most difficult. The first few days are the most difficult. I think 90 days is typically the make or break point. So they keep coming back. It works if you work it. You keep coming back. You keep on doing the things you're supposed to do also as well. Again, any club in the bag to get you to the green for all those golfers out there. Now, of course, I get to the green, I three putt, but I'm not a very good golfer. It's because I'm spending too much time doing videos. No, that's not true. I love doing these videos, and I love talking to you guys in a way. I'm talking to a white light again, but I'm picturing the people in my group. Whenever I look at this video, look at this white light, I picture my friends' faces, their smiling faces, their laughing faces, and sometimes they're crying faces. But lately, it's been more smiling because what we do with each other is we lean on each other, we give each other the support we need to get through this. Because if someone's going through what we're going through, if your friend at work didn't have a son or a daughter or a husband or wife going through addiction, say they were going through a bankruptcy, you wouldn't ask them advice about your situation. They surely wouldn't ask you advice about their situation. You're going to go to people like us who go through what we do and talk to people like us. And together we'll kind of get through this fog. Together we'll get through this fog together. So just wanted to share that with you. I was thinking about that last night about our loved one and how some of them we perceive them, especially how others perceive them as well. Also, but you know what? Who gives a shit? Well, I'm sorry, I can't speak. I can't. Can I say that on YouTube? I make it banned. Who gives a darn what people think about your situation if they're not involved in it? Who cares what other people think? They can't control your life. They can't control your feelings. They can't control your outlook on life. Only you can do that. Give it all to God. Let it go. Send it up and say, it's all on you. It's all on, it's I can't handle this. Let it go. Because it's not your responsibility. It's theirs. And delegate it to the Almighty, because He's much more qualified to do this than we are. So again, I know you guys probably weren't planning on a video tonight. Hopefully you guys are getting notifications when if I do one. So you got one last night. You actually got two because I ran long. And it's 3 in 2 days. Come on, look at that. You can't pay for this kind of recovery. This is wonderful. No coffee though, so I can't help you with that. I apologize. But again, God bless you. Have a good evening. Please say a prayer for the prayerless. Say a prayer for the ones who no one prays about. There's too many people out there like that. Say a prayer for me. And by all means, keep coming back. It works if you work it. May God bless you. Remember, it's not your fault. It isn't. Okay? Peace. Talk to you soon.